and over again through her character's eyes. She also gets to experience new first through imagining it for a character who is very much unlike herself. She gets to filter each time. She gets the flutters each time, just like the real thing. Please welcome Lisa Schulman with her Icebreaker.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. My name is Lisa Schulman, and I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland. Annapolis, Maryland was a really idyllic place to live. We lived on the water, we had a boat, but there was one big problem. It wasn't New York City. And you see, I wanted to be famous. I decided at an early age I was going to be a famous actress. So I started auditioning for parts. 2 years later, I hadn't gotten any parts. But I decided that maybe I would hedge my bets and become a supermodel, right? Because I was tall for my age, and that's all it takes, right? So I went and I looked for the most prestigious modeling academy that I could find, Anne Arundel Community College. And it was there that I learned how to dress like a model, and I learned how to put a book on my head and balance with good posture. And I learned how to take endless Polaroids to practice the perfect Vogue cover shot. But acting was really what I loved. And unfortunately, my family didn't support me very well. My mother, she worked all day, and she had an hour-long commute to Baltimore. And when she came home, she didn't feel like driving me around to rehearsals. Can you imagine the selfishness? Oh, sad. But I did not give up. I persevered, which became the theme for my life, which is perseverance is my commitment to success. I was reading the Anne Arundel newspaper, our county newspaper, one day, and on page 28 there was a little tiny article, and it said, "Talent agent coming to Annapolis to audition children for TV commercials." I was so excited. I was very much anticipating this audition. I practiced my monologue over and over and over again, and I brought my best friend Bobby Jo Quisenberry with me for support, and I got up there, took a deep breath, and I delivered, and I was sublime. And the agent looked at me and she said, "I want you, Bobby Jo Quisenberry." Oh no! What? That was like totally unfair. This was my break. Bobby Jo didn't even care about acting, and her mom wanted her to be famous. Can you believe that? Her mom laid down $800 for future acting lessons and future headshots. Talk about family loyalty. Well, I was pretty bummed until about 3 months went by. And one day I opened up the Anne Arundel County newspaper, and way in the back was a little tiny article. "New York talent agent arrested for stealing family money." Oh my God. Bobby Jo Quisenberry was not allowed to talk to me about this. My mother gave me a ton of "I told you so" looks. Well, at this point I figured that the only way I was going to become a famous actress was to get an education. So off I went to University of Maryland and majored in theater. It wasn't long before it became obvious I was missing a little something called talent. I switched over to film, and then from there I switched over to screenwriting, and then I had this aha moment. I was like, oh my gosh, I've always loved to write. When I wasn't auditioning as a kid, what was I doing? I was writing stories. So I decided to go look up one so I could show you all what a published author such as myself looked like as a very precocious and talented young writer. So I'm going to read you my first story. This was written in 1974 when I was negative 10 years old. Oh. My Dr. Seuss the ballet book. Oh. Your legs should be straight as her legs. You should be good at it. You should be very, very good at it. And then you can say, the end. But wait, there's more. Later on, I wrote this very incredible titled book, How to Live on $4.87. And you may see that I awarded myself in advance a Newbery Award winner novel. I figured maybe this was my new destiny. So I ended up publishing 2 books, but I was not an overnight success, far from it. I had to persevere. It took 20 years to get those 2 books published. I hadn't worked that long on my craft, and I had to face countless rejections from agents and editors. My theme of my life came back, but I started to realize that my life was kind of like a book as well. So there's something called a character arc, where a character on page 1 has a want that propels them through the story. But somewhere along the way, they realize they have a need. Well, I just realized that my page 1 want was to be famous, but my need was to reach people. And when I realized that, everything came into place. I could share my wisdom with teen readers. I could hide my advice in my themes and my characters, and they would actually listen, unlike my real teens. It was great. I just felt like this was my calling, and it was so much like fame, except that nobody really recognized me or ever asked me for an autograph. So I would say that there's just one more part of the story I have not told you yet, and that's that every character has a truth that comes out during the book at some point. So my truth is, I'm a little bit tiny still obsessed with fame. However, there are many more chapters of my life left, hopefully. Fame might be right around the corner. So I'm going to leave you all with 6 words. To be continued. ...
Oh.
You could really tell a storyteller.
Yeah.
That was really fun. Take a couple of minutes to give Lisa an evaluation. On the back of the agenda is a space for doing that.